Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 60 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. I have, for over 47 years, helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution, showing the world that at 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Salt Lake City, Utah, Bonnie Moore. Bonnie is an author, attorney, and accountant, best known for founding the Golden Girls Network and writing the book How to Start a Golden Girls Home. Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be on.
You bet. Well, what a rich background you have. I want to give our listeners some little details, if you will, and I'm happy for you to add more. You were born in Denver, Colorado, and you became an attorney. Obviously, you passed the law, you went to law school. And I love this quote that I found. You said, because you're quite the writer, graduated from law school when I was 50 years old and worked hard to become an expert. I love that. So then you moved, after law school, moved to Washington, D.C. You worked as a senior consultant, a management consultant specializing in financial and legal investigations, which, as I read, you were investigating governmental fraud or something. I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, what if she was there now?
Oh, wouldn't that be interesting? Yes.
It would, you wouldn't be sleeping, sweetheart. You would just be working around the clock. So tell us what you did in Washington, D.C.
I got a job with a CPA firm. I lived in San Francisco for 25 years, and then I decided, because I had never been on the East Coast, I decided to move to the East Coast.
There you go.
And I got this job in Washington, D.C. with a CPA firm. And I was a special consultant because by that time I was an accountant and an attorney, and they wanted me to manage these special projects. And they were the projects that nobody else wanted to do.
Well, first of all, having both of those, degrees, the law school and the accountant, that's impressive. Congratulations.
So, it was a wide variety of projects. One project that lasted for 10 years was a situation where the financial affairs in a particular agency were really messed up, and this agency managed they had a fiduciary responsibility, and they managed funds for disabled people, and it was a mess.
Oh, that's
and I
terrible.
spent 10 years working on that. I cleaned it up, I managed it, I wrote the policy and procedure manual, I went out and trained all the people that did all the work, and then I audited for 10 years. I audited the results. So that was one of my big projects. I had another project where, and I was actually telling someone about this the other day. I was given a project. It was a very sensitive project where a small agency had been set up. The finances were a mess. They thought something was wrong. They sent me in. I found massive fraud. And the person who had set it up was running for mayor at the time. And he didn't win, fortunately. And soon after the election, I think like January after the election, my draft report went to the mayor's office. And not long after that, he left the country.
Bonnie.
So it was one of those interesting situations.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting. And so I was given these projects because, I could do them. I could figure it out. That particular project, the way I found the error was I downloaded the whole customer base and discovered that a whole bunch of people were living out of the same address, reporting the same address, and that didn't make sense. And I started calling them, and they says, "Oh, he's gone. He doesn't live here anymore." So people were using this address.
Yes.
Um, and it was just the very simple thing of downloading the customer base and examining it. And that's how I found the fraud.
Wow.
Um, so,
Amazing. So you're also a detective.
oh, then, yeah. I mean, that's how I fix these things, because I would address things more from a investigative point of view than from an accounting point of view.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Well, it sounds like they needed that, clearly. And so this whole was the backdrop, if you will, for you to then venture into founding the Golden Girls Network. Talk to us about what gave you that idea. Of course, everybody knows the Golden Girls on television and this whole shared living concept that you devised and masterminded. Birthed was inspired, of course, by the popularized Golden Girls television show. You were always a watcher of the Golden Girls. Talk to us about how you got involved with that.
um, the way it started, I got married again when I was in DC, and we bought a 5-bedroom house. And we remodeled it, did a beautiful job. And then we got divorced, and I ended up with the house.
Okay.
And I wanted to keep it, obviously, but I couldn't afford to live there by myself, and it was much too big to live in by myself. So I looked around at different what I should do, and I ended up deciding to look for women roommates.
So good.
And I started connecting with other people around the country, someone else who was into promoting the whole idea of shared living with, older women sharing, and connected a lot of people, just made lots of connections. And I developed a database which would allow people who had homes to look for people who were, it was a matching type of service.
Yeah.
So I developed the whole database and started matching people up. So I had the home, I had 4 roommates at most of the time. I did this for 10 years.
Wow.
And then I started teaching this online class, and that was how I wrote that book. The book that I wrote were the lessons that I taught in my online class.
I'm sorry, Bonnie. We lost the sound for a minute. You had the home and you had 4 roommates. So fill me in
Yes.
on that one sentence that I lost. Sorry.
So I ended up with 4 roommates, and and women came and left.
Yeah.
But I also ended up teaching an online class. So I had people from around the country who would be in my class, and I would talk about how to do this. And that ended up became the book that I wrote. I took the lessons from my class and made a book out of it.
And you guys want to pick this up. It's on Amazon. How to Start a Golden Girls Home. I've got it right here on Kindle. It's a beautiful cover. And you are going chapter by chapter in really laying it out. You've done a masterful job in, downloading from your brain and all of your experience. What is a Golden Girls Home? So that book is still selling very nicely on Amazon after 10 years. So congratulations on that. So
Thank you. Of course, I have another book. I'm now writing mysteries,
yes,
but
I see that.
that's a new chapter in my life.
I know. I want to get to. You've been reviewed pretty impressively from some very very big reviewers. So we'll get to that in a second. But I want to just flesh this out because there are a lot of women in our community that for whom this idea and this concept could in fact have a whole lot of meaning. Now, I've seen the term used co-housing. Did you use that term, Bonnie?
Um, I did not originate that term. That term is out there.
Yeah.
Um, it's a broader concept than women sharing a house.
Yeah.
Co-housing is really um, it's very similar,
Okay.
but
Okay.
co-housing often involves a broader range of people.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let me just, for our viewing audience, talk about the purpose and the structure as I've researched it, and you can just fill in the details. This
Sure.
was a network serving primarily older women, although men could participate, seeking affordable, supportive, and vibrant living situations. I love this. So you're matching people who wish to share a home. So you'd have people that were looking for a home and people that had the home and smash them together. So people were renting out rooms, moving into each other's homes, jointly renting a new place. See, that kind of had a lot of appeal for me. Like maybe two people together. Now we can rent or buy a more desirable and maybe safer home, or rent an apartment, because now we have two incomes to spend. So I thought that was amazing. And so we're saving on housing costs, enhancing the daily companionship. How important is that? Bridging the gap between living alone and moving into transitional senior housing. Wow, that's a very, very valuable benefit. So, what was the approximate age of the average people, that women that you were kind of putting together and the network was putting together?
I was looking for women over 50. Most of the women who moved in with me were a little bit younger than me
Okay,
because I was early 60s, I think, when I started it.
okay, okay,
And oftentimes they were women who were ending a relationship um, and transitioning to something else.
right now.
Um, and I think that was the majority of it. Was women who were getting out of a bad situation in one way or another, and needed to transition. Many times they only stayed for a year or two. I think the longest that anyone actually stayed was 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Is that right?
Um,
Okay. Well, that's if you're in a transition, so you're kind of getting your new sea legs into three
yeah,
years. So that makes sense. Okay. Well, this is amazing. So the members would come on, they'd pay a little fee. I mean, it's really small,
yeah.
$39 for 6 months or something. And then you could search until, you were finding somebody. And so you create a profile, and you use divulge your preferences, what your background is, how you are looking for compatibility, and so forth and so on. And so there's this whole process. Okay, you create the profile, and then you're waiting for people to respond, and you're responding. About how long did it typically take people to find a person with whom they could cohabitate?
It usually takes a couple of months. The
Okay,
personality is the biggest issue.
right now.
And one of the things that I found is that you need to have similar backgrounds.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Um, some just in order to get along,
Yeah.
and finding that background situation was probably the hardest.
Okay.
And my house was not in the best location for people.
Okay.
Um, the house was in a bedroom community, and most of the people who lived around were family oriented,
Okay.
and everyone had to drive a certain distance to get to their job. So
Okay.
it was not the greatest location,
Yeah.
but it was a very comfortable house.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it. So then you offered background checks. I mean, you're an attorney, so you are understanding the risks here. So you said, okay, you can do background checks if you want. It wasn't mandatory, but I would have done it. And then the parties communicate. with each other, and then they interview each other, and then if they are a go, they begin to draw up a contract and so forth with some legal language to protect each one of the people, because there may be more than two, there might be, right, a lot of people maybe. So these contracts are amazing, and you have them right in your Kindle book, you guys. At the end, appendix, exhibit A, sample house-made application, exhibit B, sample house agreements, exhibit C, sample lease agreements. So the fact that you were an attorney and an accountant, I mean, you had your arms around the financial of this, which is really, really smart. And yet, boy, haven't we all heard that stat that if we're lonely, it is akin to smoking a couple of packs of cigarettes a day. What I see your network doing was bringing people together where they might have lived singularly or, popped into an adult community maybe before they needed to. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you did this. Now, let's see. Yeah, greater financial flexibility, social engagement, opportunities to pursue their interests because, if you have two people, you can play cards, right? If you have two people, you can, go bowling and everybody claps when you got a strike. So the whole aspect of reducing the isolation, but the sharing of the household tasks and caregiving. So you could have disparate dollar amounts, Bonnie, coming in, right? So long as they agreed, and it depends on how they owned it. So you talked about joint tenants with rights of survivorship, joint tenancy, tenants in commons, et cetera. So talk us through that. And did people come to you, Bonnie, for honing these legal agreements?
No, I tried to stay out of it. Uh, the the contract needed to be negotiated between the two people.
Exactly.
Um, now I had 5 people living together, which exponentially made it worse.
Yes, of course.
Trying to blend personalities. But the best situation is 2 people getting together.
Yes. Yes.
But I had my pro forma agreement, but and there are other books about having roommates that have different kinds of contracts, and I would suggest to somebody, read all of them and figure out what's best for you.
Smart. Smart. Yeah.
Be,
Because you don't want to be blamed. I mean,
yeah.
you've created this network. So yes, you're so wise to have referred people to elder law attorneys because especially
Mhm.
if somebody has heirs that would otherwise be inheriting some of their or maybe all of their assets. Now, if they come into a cohabitation situation and maybe they really get along very well with the person, maybe somebody takes ill, somebody's caregiving, and so there's some back and forth depending upon the circumstance and the amount of extra care. See, this always the unexpected. I was a planner. We always plan for all the normal ages, but there was the
Yes.
unexpected, and that hits you across the side of the head. So there's a sense by which I can understand maybe kids, especially, getting a nickel nervous if their mom goes in and maybe she signs over some assets or rights or titleship, maybe unwittingly. You never know. There are people out there that take advantage of other people. So I was so happy that you really were very, very insistent on getting legal agreements. Um, so what was one of the biggest kind of surprises when you're putting people together? I mean, you're talking about personality. So what, like somebody's really messy and somebody's OCD? I mean,
Mhm.
or somebody's late all the time and somebody's on time. I mean, what were the biggest kind of disparities that you encountered?
Um, Probably social economic differences, because I owned the house. I had a good job,
Yes.
management level position, and the women who were looking for a place to live oftentimes were cash poor, or
Okay.
or you know they were getting out of a bad situation, whatever the situation was, and they saw me as somebody who was much different from them when, I was struggling just as much as they were. I had a big mortgage.
Yes,
um,
exactly.
so and I was trying to manage the household, it, because it had with 5 people.
There's a lot to manage.
Yes. Um, and all kinds of different personalities. And sometimes people would want to bring their dog,
Oh, right,
and
pets.
somebody else didn't like the dog. That was an issue that we had, is
Ye-
dogs.
Yes,
And
yes.
then we had boyfriends.
Well, of course. Or
So we had
girlfriends,
to have house rules. And
Ah,
so it was it was in my situation, it was much more like a almost like a rooming house rather than a roommate situation.
okay, okay.
and
And either works.
now there was a woman. I lived in a suburb, and there was a woman in the suburb who um, heard about it, and she ended up taking on 2 people. She had a large house, and she took on 2 roommates, and one of them was dealing with lots of issues, and the other one wasn't. And so she would come to me for advice. How do we deal with this?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm sure you were the advisor, formally or
mhm,
informally, to people, and why wouldn't they tap, the expert? You'd seen much of it, and if not all of it. So, the other aspect I like about a Pawnee is it's environmentally friendly, right? Reduces
uh-huh,
the energy use. I mean, obviously, I'm a certified grief coach, and after a person dies in a couple, the electric bill doesn't get cut in half. It's still about
exactly.
80%, right? And so I could see this being really valuable for widowed people, right? Or people that are been left or something like that, or people that are single and want to,
Mhm,
share that kind of opportunity to be social, but then you shut your door or you go to the park or you
mhm,
do your own thing. So I love it. So we have financial savings, companionship, health improvement. I got to think that when people have come from maybe a transition where they're kind of alone and isolated into certainly some community, if not one person, 5 people, 4 people, there is a whole lot better trajectory for their health to improve, because it's like one domino hits another domino and hits another domino. So hopefully people would remain healthy longer. Did you find that to be true?
um, I think most of the women that were in my house were young enough that health wasn't a big issue.
Okay.
I was usually the oldest one,
Okay, fair enough, fair
um,
enough.
and I was still working at the time.
Excellent. Okay, so then let's go there. So let's say you had an older woman who becomes, in some capacity, incapacity, less capacity, and she's not able to be mobile or whatever, or starts to be demented. I would suspect your legal agreement said, okay, this is an exit. This has to be an exit, because you're not going to provide home health care there. I mean, that's
Mhm,
insurance and everything else. So I would suspect that that kind of thing, if it was widespread and is an older audience, then you're going to have people then go ahead and jump leapfrog, if you will, into an adult community. No harm, no foul. You gave them, however weeks, many months and
mhm.
years until they needed to do that. So yeah, now I'm coming to the note I had on, you were a senior management consultant in DC. You investigated improprieties in government organizations. Oh, Bonnie. Oh, Bonnie. Yeah. So
Uh,
now,
I'm glad I'm not there now.
oh, I can't even imagine. Yes. So you shifted into writing and advocacy, and you're really doing the social justice work in your writing. So you've written this book, this second book, in addition to this, How to Start a Golden Girls home, you've written another book, and it is a mystery. And this is it's gotten such good reviews, and I'm just trying to come to it right now. Buried Bones. Oh my gosh. You moved to Utah to come closer to your family, and you wanted to deal with storytelling. Talk to us about Buried Bones, your book.
It took me 5 years to write it, but I stayed with it. Um, I have always wanted to write. Even when I lived in DC, I was working on a manuscript that I never finished, but I, um, I enjoy writing.
Yeah.
It's one of my bucket list kinds of things. So I retired to Utah, except I continued working part time, but I started taking some classes, some writing classes. And one class that I took was called How to Write a Mystery. And we had to have a project we were working on for that class. And so the first day, the instructor said, make up a location, figure out where your story is. We had to have the story. So I made up a location. And then the next class, he said, okay, make up a victim and figure out how that victim died. And so we just kept building our stories. And that story that I started creating for that class, I just stayed with it after
Yeah.
the class. And
Yeah.
of course, COVID came along. So this became my COVID project. It kept me
Wow.
sane during COVID because I kept working on the book.
That's
Um, so, and of course, my first draft was terrible. Yeah,
as
every
it
first
often
draft
is.
is terrible,
Always is.
especially first time authors.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So, but anyway, I hired an editor and worked with this editor. I think we went through 3 different revisions. And I had a couple of other people look at it, and I just stayed with it and kept working on it. And I kept studying the art of writing. And, I finally, and then I started looking for a publisher, and I had one publisher look at it, and then they decided against it. And I says, well, I'm just going to publish it myself. I'm not going to sit around and wait and keep trying. So I published it myself.
Love it.
And yeah, my Kirkus review was fabulous. I got into the Kirkus magazine.
I know. And this is it, you guys. Kirkus Review, and I quote, an exceedingly intelligent murder mystery, dramatically enthralling and thoroughly entertaining, and an immersive tale of murder and betrayal. Holy moly, that, oh, I just
That was from Kirkus.
exactly from Kirkus. And then we have a wonderfully glowing review from Thomas Anderson, editor in chief of Literary Titan. What I love most about this book was Maggie herself. She's 75, sharp, wounded, and resilient in a way that doesn't feel performative or glamorized. So, talk to us about Maggie. How did you come on the name Maggie?
She went through several names.
Oh,
um, but so I'm actually writing a series. I'm halfway through the next book.
good,
But
good.
what Maggie is a retired prosecutor from Washington D.C. who
I
retired in Utah. Funny
knew.
thing. And she accidentally runs into a situation where this guy is wrongly accused of murdering his ex-wife. And always the ex-husband is the first suspect.
Yes.
Okay. So she decides to help him out. So she just jumps in a little bit like Agatha Christie.
Yes.
Not Agatha Christie. Jessica Fletcher is who I
Okay.
had in mind
There you go.
when I created Maggie. Except Maggie is a little bit more modern.
Okay.
So the whole series is uh, Maggie taking on situations. But what Maggie's going to be doing is taking on situations where she is working for the defense, not trying to. She's defending somebody who is running into trouble with the law and is overwhelmed.
How about Audrey? She's defending Audrey, right?
Audrey is the victim.
Victim. Yes, yes.
Audrey was the victim, but she's defending the ex-husband who was accused of murdering her, and he didn't do it.
Got you
And
covered.
then
Okay.
she uncovers this big scandal in the small town.
There's always one. There's always at least.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And this reader's favorite review, there's a wonderful focus on female characters, especially Maggie herself, as well as the victim, Audrey, and how they deal with the unfair pressures society puts on them in very different ways. Well, this is sexism 101, right? So you were really interweaving some social justice work in this fiction writing. Congratulations.
Oh, yes. That's Maggie defending people, taking on these situations that seem impossible, where people are not getting justice.
Yeah.
Um, and the town was trying to convict this guy based upon prejudicial issues.
Yeah.
And she said, no, wait a minute, he didn't do it. There's no evidence. Where's your evidence? And so she figures it out.
So good, so good. Um, and you're interweaving Maggie's personal history and her maturity, of course, and she's able to navigate the nuances of the small town politics that always rules a small town for sure. You showed through that character, Maggie, how age can be an asset in detective work, focusing on justice and relationships rather than high speed action. So it's that kind of interweaving, curious, hey, let's look around. What about that option? And I'm now intrigued to read it. So there you have it.
Well, it, it, it was fun, interesting, and challenging. And I've got the same situation with the second book.
And how many are
um,
you going to have? How many are in a series?
as many as I can write, one a year.
Love that. Love that.
You
Excellent.
know, I have to stay young so I can finish writing these.
Oh, that's amazing. So I wanted to share with our audience, because you shared it with me, that you actually were able to sell the Golden Girls home to a woman, and she has a Facebook group where you can join called Golden Girls Network, and she's running it out of Canada. But remind yourself,
Yes.
this is a world, you just go on and put your profile in and see what comes up. And if you want to, more richly develop the United States again, perhaps like Bonnie did, maybe ping the owner and say, hey, I'd like to kind of put some more juice in the United States of America. So I could see people kind of gravitating towards like more rural. Somebody loves horses, and so you kind of get this situation where you have horses, or people like to have gardening, and people really garden for vegetables and flowers and so forth. So I could see these kind of synergies, Bonnie, with people, drawing them together, perhaps in locale and in cultural kinds of activities. So I'm just,
And,
I was
and
happy about it.
somebody who's interested in doing this can go out and find a roommate on her own. You don't need the network necessarily. It's just deciding to do it.
Exactly.
If you have a home, you've got extra space, you'd like to have a companion, you put it together and you find somebody.
Exactly.
Local networking.
That's all it is. That's what it is for sure. So you're working on your next book, and you took 5 years to write this, the Golden Girls. And how long did it take you to? No, Buried was 5 years. Which one was 5 years?
The first one is 5 years. The second one, I actually gave up my part-time job in May, and I've spent the summer writing it. I've got most of it done now, except that I decided to rearrange some of the chapters. So I'm in the first edit already.
Oh my.
I'll go through 2 or 3 edits before I'm happy with it. I'm anticipating um, publishing like April or May.
Wow.
So the first book came out May the 6th, I think it was. So I that's my goal, is once a year I'll have a book out.
So good. So good.
So I figured out how to do it. So now it's much easier.
Well, for sure, for sure. So, talk to us about some of our people have been in their maybe career or their lifestyle or routine and so forth that they haven't been as courageous as you in terms of taking a step out and getting maybe not maybe out of their complete comfort zone. I have a little sign here from an artist in Florida. Your comfort zone will kill you. So you obviously were pretty versed. You an accountant and an attorney, so you certainly had book knowledge and practical knowledge in your working career. Yet, talk to us about how women can just bust through that fear that holds some women back from doing what they maybe have always really sneak, deep down inside of them wanted to do. Like in your case, right?
Um, well, I think where I kind of stepped out of it, out of the traditional. Well, I ended up being a single mother, and I had to raise two kids by myself. When
Okay,
my last kid went to graduated from high school, it was like, what do I do next? I was like 45 years old,
gotcha.
and that's when I decided to go to law school. Um, I had worked for an attorney when I was in college. I worked my way through college working for an attorney, and he wanted me to go to law school. Then I says, "Oh no, I'm tired of school." And by then I had two babies,
Yeah.
and so I concentrated on the kids for 20 years. And so suddenly I'm 45 years old, and I'm saying, "What's next?" And I decided to go to law school because and even I contacted that attorney. He by then he was a judge, and I said, "Write me a letter of recommendation," and he said, "Okay." Finally. So
Oh,
I went to
good.
law school, and I graduated when I was 50. So
That had to have been a proud moment right there. You're walking across the aisle with, people half your age, and you are just proud as punch. I hope you were.
and, and I had both of my kids there. I've got a photograph of me with my
Mortarboard.
graduation and the two kids.
Oh, so
They were
good.
both in college at that point.
Yes,
So
yes, exactly. So,
um,
what's your you've done a good deal of travel, Bonnie. You've done African safari in the south of Africa, I read. I've done a safari, but it was in like Serengeti area. Where
uh,
did you safari more south?
I was in South Africa, the big park there. I don't remember the name, but the great big huge park. It was actually a resort that was right on the edge of the park. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I loved seeing those animals in the wild. It was, and I'm a pretty good photographer, and boy, I just have some gorgeous pictures of elephants and
Mhm.
giraffes with their mane flying back. And,
Yes.
yeah, so it's something that I'm just suggesting it's an absolutely exhilarating experience. And then you've been on archaeological digs. Wow, what got you involved in that?
Um,
In France, no less.
France and in England, two of them. I saw an advertisement for this organization called Earthwatch. And Earthwatch is fascinating, and you can join expeditions all over the world doing all kinds of things. And I saw that. I was living in San Francisco, and I said, I want to do this. So I contacted them, got on their mailing list, and it took a while, but
Yeah.
I signed up for this. You show up, you're there for 2 weeks, you bring your sleeping bag in your tent, and you dig.
Oh, oh my gosh.
and
That's
and we
amazing.
pitched our tents in an apple orchard, and our headquarters was this 15th century building, and that's where we cooked, and we weren't allowed to sleep there because the building was so old it was crumbling, and so we had to sleep in the orchard behind it. But it was in a little village, and I just joined. Anybody can join these expeditions all over the world. And then the one in England, we worked on Hadrian's Wall.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It, so, I, you know, anybody can do it. you pay some money. It's just like going on a vacation anywhere, but you show up in your hiking boots and your old clothes and you do the work.
Now, did,
um,
did they train you? Because, if you, what if you stumble upon something and you mishandle it or you break it? I mean, that wouldn't be good.
oh no, they taught you because it was run by an archaeologists. And the last one I went on, I went to Peru on the Amazon River, and my job was counting dolphins in the river.
Oh, pink dolphins down there.
Pink dolphins, yes. I was counting pink dolphins in the river in Peru about 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
That was the
How
last. So I went on several of these through Earthwatch. And
earthly.
fascinating organization. And um, so it's an adventuresome thing to do.
It sounds amazing. I mean, I went to Ephesus, Turkey the first time, well, 25 years ago at least. And we walked down those, paths where, chariots went, and it was
Uh-huh.
a surreal
Uh-huh.
feeling, right? And down in the bottom was the library and pillars and so forth. And like, I was a
Hmm.
very high percentage, Bonnie. I think it was like 70 or 80% authentic, like, the original stuff. And then they were doing the cement and stuff around it. And the people there said, I said, "Oh, this is amazing." And they said, "I'll come back in 5 years and this whole hill will be done." And of course, there's people up there with brushes and stuff. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, right." I came back in like 6 or 7 years. No kidding. The whole side of that hill to the left of that chariot path was developed and there was a visitor center in there. I mean, if you would have said to me that's going to happen, I would have said probably not. And there it was in front of my own eyes.
The archaeology expedition that I went on in France, we were digging up skeletons out of a graveyard. And the skeleton that I worked on, it was a graveyard that had been used for like 1,000 years. People were just on top of each other. And the skeleton that dug up, I had my own skeleton. She was 1,000 years old. She was pregnant when she died. We had the little baby bones. I'm sitting there with my toothbrush thing, working on the bones, and the archaeologist would come around and she would take the bone out and put it in a plastic bag and label it. So I was being supervised, but I'm sitting there with my Indiana Jones hat on and, um, you know, with the toothbrush, um, cleaning off the 1,000-year-old bones on this little lady that died 1,000 years ago, and she was pregnant.
Oh my gosh, Bonnie, that is amazing. So I'm thinking that you're going to interweave some of these stories into, the next edition of Buried Bones or whatever you call the next one. Do you have a title for it yet?
The title is "The Children." There, she picks up these two runaway children, and there's a whole story behind that.
All right. Well,
And uh, and 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 a lot of what I'm doing with this particular story is showing how inadequate the juvenile court system is.
isn't that true? Wow. Wow.
So, so Maggie is trying to navigate helping these kids, and juvenile court just wants to throw them into the juvenile detention center.
Yeah. Yeah. Quickest,
So,
quickest way to get.
um, it has a good ending, but there's a whole lot they have to go through to get there.
Yeah, which is very indicative of these kids and young adult struggles. Um, so buried bones, and you're doing the toothbrush and finding this skeleton who's pregnant, and then you get the baby bones. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And then it was after that that you wrote Buried Bones, and that's kind of like the title, or how?
Oh no, the archaeology trip was 1982,
Oh, okay, okay.
1983. That was the very first. Um, so I've been doing these Earthwatch trips for years. Between Earthwatch and the what used to be called Elder Hostel. It's
Yeah.
got another name now, but I went on many of those trips also. I spent a couple of weeks in Syria, in not Syria, Sicily, that same year that I went to Peru. I did 5 trips that year.
So good, so good. Well, so you must have done some travel in your whole career alone, and I, we had a gal on that was talking about solo travel, and I really love when women will not let their circumstance of not having someone to travel with just go, and maybe you find somebody, and then you cross paths and maybe share a path for a few days. The options, Bonnie, are so rich for us now that I'm so eager for our listeners to take their cue from you to keep on doing whatever it is that's calling your name. And you're saying you're going to write until you can't write, and that's a beautiful thing. So I hope we got about 10 or 12 books to look forward to.
Well, yep. I have to stay healthy because I want to write these books. So I'm motivated.
Right now,
You
right now.
know, you know, I'm 80 years old now, so it's like I got to squeeze this in.
I love it. Yeah, we're all about that here because it's just like, all right, so what do you really want to do? And one of our filmmakers said that to a filmmaker, and he said, "Well, you better get at it."
I don't have time to waste. I got to get it done. So,
Exactly, exactly.
you know, I just have to keep thinking young.
Yes, exactly. Well, when we think young, we are young, and that is quite a bit of the responsibility of ourselves, marshaling, our minds and allowing the possibilities to bubble up, right? And I
Mhm,
like to give my subconscious an assignment before I go to sleep at night. Okay, I want a new idea. And
mhm.
maybe we say, I want a new idea for a trip I'd like to take. And boy, give that a couple nights and you're going to end up with some ideas, just like how the advertisers come in when you like say, okay, you're looking for a mattress, and then the next 6 weeks you've gotten mattresses all over your computer. That's what your subconscious can do for you.
Mhm,
And I want to
mhm.
invite us to use our subconscious. You've certainly used your noggin with all these designations and these careers, and the writing now is a rich cherry on top of the sundae. I commend you, Bonnie. Thank you so very much. Is there any last word that you'd like to share with our audience?
Um, keep thinking young.
Love
Keep
that.
thinking young.
Keep thinking young, and you're going to act young because that really follows. Well, I commend you on doing both of those things, and I wish everyone will do the same in terms of pushing forward through whatever may have stopped you before, because time and health, those are our assets, I think, and I don't want to waste either one of them. So, Bonnie, tell us how we can best reach you.
Well, I have a website now
Good.
for my books. It's Bonnie Moore Books with an S.com.
Perfect. Perfect. BonnieMooreBooks.com. We'll put that in the show notes. And we invite anybody to pop on there. I invite you to go onto Kindle and get this book, How to Start a Golden Girl's Home. It is a delight. The chapters in it are benefits and rewards, being Golden Girl or Golden Guy. Who are the new Golden Girls? Stage 1, what am I doing? Stage 2, reaching an agreement. Stage 3, how do I find a housemate? Stage 4, what questions should I ask in the interview? Stage 5, reaching agreements. Stage 6, getting to know all about you. Stage 7, dealing with disappointments. And so that is par for the course when we imagine that we're not going to have any disappointments. That is silly. So you've really woven in the full complement of in the environment that people are in when they look to cohabitate or partner up with somebody for living space. And I just think it's an amazing, amazing idea. I compliment you highly for ramping that business up as good as well as you did, and as international as you did, certainly nationally strong. And I invite anybody to, as you said, Bonnie, go ahead and do it on your own. Go and put something out on Facebook and say, hey, I'm looking to, share some costs. Who's in? And you might be surprised.
Exactly.
You might be surprised.
Exactly.
All righty. Well, thank you again, and I appreciate your time and your expertise, Bonnie. And thank you for joining us, viewers, on the We Can Do It Women show. Remember, I see
Oh,
you.
thank you for having me.
You bet. Remember, I see you, I value you, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. If today's episode sparks something in you, I invite you to check out what it is that has been holding you back. And I want you to pursue that because time is of the essence. I want to interject joy into each of our lives and do whatever it is that brings you joy. And Bonnie has given us some wonderful tips to start that priming of the pump, if you will, to give us some new ideas, and ask your subconscious just to percolate on what would bring you more joy. So until next time, I'm Debra Morrison, and reminding you, pay attention to your money. It will surely pay you back.